Welcome to another episode of the Sales Hunter podcast. I'm Mark Hunter, Sales Hunter. I had a great, absolutely magnificent guest. Sam Richter is going to join us in just a minute. He's considered the father of modern day sales intelligence. He's the master of finding information online and using it for sales success. Sam is an award-winning author, speaker, and CEO. And let's get the introduction out of the way and get Sam in here.
You're listening to the Sales Hunter podcast with Mark Hunter, where the focus is to help you as a salesman sell with confidence and integrity. And now here's your host.
Sam, you didn't know that I could introduce you as the father of modern day sales intelligence. How's that sound? Does that sound impressive?
It's pretty good. I appreciate that. But I also wonder if that makes me really old.
Well, I don't know. I mean, that's up to you to decide. So anyway, but hey, what we're talking about today is really, does the customer need the salesperson? I mean, salespeople have been around since really the dawn of man, and you really kind of have to stop and ask yourself, do salespeople matter to customers? What's your thought on that? Because you are the modern day sales intelligence guru.
Well, I think the answer, Mark, is I think that is a lot, with everything, right? I mean, it was going to be the death of the real estate agent when Zillow came out. It was going to be with automation, it's going to be the death of the server at a restaurant. Well, the reality is everything just changes. Right? Financial advisors. Oh, everything's going to go online. It'll be robo advisors. We don't need financial advisors. Well, we need financial advisors more than any time in history. And I would say we need salespeople more than any time in history. But I think we have to define salespeople first, Mark. A lot of people call themselves salespeople, but in reality, they're order takers.
Oh, thank you. Bang. We can stop it right there, right now, because I love what you just said.
Yeah.
I love it.
And that's not a salesperson. That's just somebody picking up the phone and entering an order into a CRM system and pushing submit. And maybe they even get a bonus because they answered the phone. A salesperson is someone who understands the customer, understands the client, provides value above and beyond just taking the order. Because a good salesperson might intuitively know, yeah, you know what? That is the product that the person wants. However, a great salesperson is going to ask those challenging questions, and maybe they have a better solution than what the client or the customer thinks that they need. And that's the type of salesperson that I think is probably more necessary than ever. I don't know about you, Mark, but Amazon's going to be the death of the sale. No, I don't know about, I log into Amazon, I'm overwhelmed. I mean, I actually think there's a great business for building out a sales team of Amazon secret shoppers. Just find me the things that I care about, or better, find me things that I don't even know that I care about that I need. I'd pay for that, just like I think a good salesperson pays for themselves many times over.
Well, I think that's spot on. A comment has come in already: without the right sales professional, no economy. Too many order takers, anyone can do it. I think that's spot on. Yeah. So if you were to define sales, how would you define it?
Well, I would say I'm going to use a quote from my old friend Don Craighead, who we lost a couple of years ago to COVID, unfortunately, but a wonderful man, brilliant salesperson. And he taught me, he said, Sam, sales is one of the noblest professions they are. And so here's the definition. Because if you're doing sales right, what you're doing is you're trying to figure out what the other person cares about, what their goals are, and can your company, your solutions, your experience help them achieve their goals a little bit faster, more efficiently, more effectively, and more profitably than they might be able to do on their own. So a salesperson is really somebody who's helping the other person achieve their goals. Align your solutions with what they care about.
You stop and think about that. That goes back to a Zig Ziglar line. Best way to achieve your goals is to help other people achieve their goals.
Right.
And really that is at the core of sales. But you hit on something. It's helping others achieve their goals. Why aren't salespeople focused in on that? Why does it fall short? And because I find salespeople are afraid to ask the difficult question, and they just want to take orders.
Well, I think there's a number of reasons. And if you don't mind, I'm going to go back in history a little bit. So there's date ranges, right? There's AD, there's CE. What's BG stand for, Mark?
Before Google.
Before Google.
I've heard you use this line before. I'm sorry.
So let's go back 27, 28, 30 years ago, right? I'm going to use my father-in-law, Ken Livingston, as an example. So Ken was one of the top salespeople at a company called American Packaging Corporation. He sold corrugated boxes. And when we think of a commoditized business, that's about as commoditized as you can get. Now, at Ken's funeral, 22 years ago now, dozens upon dozens and dozens of his customers went up to my wife and talked about how wonderful Ken was. Ken knew our company. Ken knew our goals. Ken knew our industry. Ken knew my son was going off to the military. Ken knew my daughter was accepted to Harvard. Ken knew that my husband had cancer. Ken knew my birthday. He knew my favorite candy. Now, how is it possible, Mark, that at a time when if Ken wanted to call his customer, he had to drive and find a glass booth on a corner and stick a dime into a machine? For those of you under the age of 30, it's called a phone booth. Google it, look it up. It's pretty cool. But how is it possible that he knew more about his customers? And I think it's well, frankly, Mark's the title of your book. It's a mindset. Now, granted, 30 years ago, his customers would give him a 2-hour lunch. They'd go golfing. They'd maybe even go to a sporting event. Nobody does that anymore. But the mindset is still the same. You have to care about your customer. You have to have a relationship mindset. Now, when I talk about relationship in sales, I don't think the buyer has to have a relationship with me. So for example, Mark, if you were selling me a new HVAC system for my home, right? I don't need to know about your family, your kids, your goals, but you need to have that mindset with me. What's important to me? All right, fast forward to today. We'll call it AG, after Google. This beautiful system came out in the last 20 years called CRM, Customer Relationship Management. Now, most companies do a pretty darn good job on the customer side. They can tell you the average order size, how many times the customer orders, how many times they come to a website, open an email, click on an email, how many times they even call customer service. They do pretty good on the M side, the management. A new customer comes on, we have a pull-down menu, a checkbox that automates our onboarding system. My goodness, the efficiency it creates. We were able to redeploy some of our admin people into higher, more important jobs. But we forget about the R, the relationship side. And I think one of the reasons, so there's a very long-winded answer to your question, Mark, is what gets bonused, what gets commissioned, what gets measured, gets done. And it's easy to measure open rates, click-through rates, order sizes, how many calls made, those sorts of things. It's easy to measure efficiency. It's hard to measure relationships. And that's, if I were to get on a soapbox, that's my message when I'm speaking. How do we build those relationships? How do we put the R back into CRM?
I love that because I think too many people have taken the R and made it reporting. Oh, it's just reporting.
Oh, that's great, Mark.
I'm just going to go ahead and report. And it's done. But come back to this whole relationship thing, because I truly do believe salespeople are needed more than ever. Now, there are some basic, simple transaction salespeople aren't needed for. I totally get that. But just as you said, you're overwhelmed with Amazon. Customers are, when they attempt to do all the search that they want to do, what do? They become overwhelmed. They become so overwhelmed that they don't know what to look for.
Yeah.
It was interesting. Just yesterday, I bought a new laptop, and you're going to shoot me on this. I bought a PC.
Yeah.
I did buy an Apple. I bought a PC. Well, it's because of a client relationship. But anyway, it was funny. But there's so many different options with which to go from. I finally asked this client I'm working with, what is the one you recommend? Because otherwise I would have looked for hours.
Yeah.
And what the client recommended, that's what I bought. Period. Yeah.
And I remember, using that story when I went in and got when COVID hit, right? I'm going to build a complete production studio in my house. I didn't know what kind of equipment. So I went to Micro PC Center in my town here, not a local retail store where they hire people that maybe knew how to turn on a computer. I went to a place where computer people hang out. And I went in and explained the situation, and the salesperson, I ended up probably spending $3,000 more than I would have, but I felt so comfortable spending that money because they were asking me all the right questions. What are you going to use it for? Well, if you thought of this, so, how is this going to expand? What happens if X occurs? An excellent salesperson.
Yeah.
I didn't feel at all like I was being sold. What I felt like, Mark, is I was being heard.
Okay. Now this is interesting because we got another comment. B2B, yes, different to B2C.
Of course.
Interesting relationships versus outcomes. But I'm going to contend that relationships are really just as critical in B2B as they are in B2C.
Yeah, and B2C it depends on how you define B2C. If it's going to a local Starbucks, well, I guess that's B2C. But how about insurance?
Mm-hmm.
How about financial services, legal services? In our world, it could be B2C, could be anything related to travel. So I think I would define it less B2B versus B2C and more the complexity of the sale and the complexity of the outcome.
Okay.
So, buying insurance, yes, I can go online and save 15%. Fine. That's a transactional insurance sale. But my insurance agent last year, so I've got a swimming pool, and we were talking, and he said, well, who uses the swimming pool? And I said, well, now that my kids are out of college, or one's in college, one's out of college, I said, me and my wife. And so we've had new neighbors move into the community. And so I told them it's the community pool. Let the kids come. He said, well, you better up your liability insurance. Really? Why? B2C, if I would have gone online, I guarantee you I would have shopped by price and bought the minimum. And not only was he able to sell me more liability insurance, but he looked at other areas where I was actually overinsured. Ultimately, I got a lot more coverage for about the same price.
So now it's interesting that you open up your pool to the community during the months of November, December, January, February, March, when it's frozen in the great north of Minnesota.
Well, we got to get the kids trained on ice skating and ice fishing. So
I see. Got it. Okay. This is the whole thing. And again, we're getting great comments that are coming in. I'm just putting a few of them up on the screen, but it comes down to relationships.
Yeah.
What's the strategy? What's the plan? Again, it's easy to say, develop a relationship. Well, hey, the person isn't responding to my phone calls. The person isn't taking me. I get them on the call for 20 seconds or it's just email. How do I get that relationship in CRM?
And Mark, it's not rocket science, and it's certainly not new. A lot of people call me the modern day version of Dale Carnegie. You and I both know, Mark, we've got a lot of colleagues. You and I both written best-selling books. We've got a lot of colleagues, we've written best-selling books. And I got to tell you, you get those folks over a beer. Hey, you based your entire book on chapter 6 of How to Win Friends and Influence People. Yeah, but don't tell anybody. It's still one of the best books ever written, How to Win Friends and Influence People. And Carnegie says, and I'm going to butcherize the quote, but it's the sweetest sound in any language is the sound of someone's name. And I would argue that in today's world, the sweetest sound in the English language is the sound of someone's name based on what they care about. We have this incredible tool called the internet. Theoretically, on my mobile device, I can pull up every word ever written in human history in less than 10 seconds. And yet most people today don't bother to do their homework. People are massively passionate about themselves. I teach the 3x5 in my program. Spend 3 minutes trying to find 5 pieces of information, 5 minutes trying to find 3 pieces of information. Find a piece of news. What happened in their world? What's going on with their competitors? What's going on in their industry? Talk about them. Show that you care. Show that you've done your homework. When you do that, that gives you the permission, and I believe that's the second most powerful word in sales. First most powerful word in sales is 2 words. It's I'll buy. The second most powerful word in sales is the word permission. We've all been taught that we have to ask questions, right? Every sales book, every sales training course, got to ask questions. Everybody nods their head. Yeah, you got to ask questions. You don't have permission to ask great questions, Mark. Like maybe it worked 15 years ago. Hey, what's keeping you up at night, right? Come on. But if you go in and you show that you know something about the other person, you connect with them on that personal level. It could be a business level, could be a personal level. It gives you permission to ask those more difficult questions because people like to do business with people who care. A side benefit of when you've done your homework, you also walk in exceptionally confident. When you know something about the other person, you don't have to tell them that you know it, but you do feel way more confident. As I like to say, your marketing efforts, your LinkedIn profile, social media, testimonials, trade show booths, all that, referrals, that just gets you in the maybe pile. The maybe piles, you're one of three. All three of you can do the job. All three of you can do the job at what the customer's willing to pay. People do business with people who they like. How do you like somebody? It's the accumulation of little things. Knowing about them, what they care about, showing that you care, gets you a little bit higher than the other two in the maybe pile.
It's interesting what you say there because it means that sending the email out, hey, I wanted to bounce this to the top of your email list is not a good prospecting strategy.
No.
Or just checking in, right?
Right.
But it's leading with substance. And now when you're sitting in front of them, but this same strategy, I mean, I contend I use it in phone calls, I use it emails, I use it in everything. Because again, you summed it up well. They like hearing about themselves.
Yeah. And sometimes, I don't believe in the cold call. I believe in the warm call or the semi-warm or the lukewarm call. But I was even working with a financial advisor this morning, and he was going to put together an email campaign. It had a list. And I said, no, we're going to use my Intel engine. And what we're going to do is we're going to find a list. Now, this guy's on the board of advisors for Normandale Community College. He's a financial advisor. So we're going to go into the Intel engine. We're going to find founders or owners of companies who are graduates of Normandale Community College who went to school somewhere between 1965 and 1975. Why that date range? Because I know they're probably thinking about retirement. Now in this outreach, and it's going to be individual emails, LinkedIn connections. It's not, hi, I'm a financial advisor. It's, hey, as a board member of Normandale Community College, it's an honor to meet a fellow business owner. Congratulations on your success. I've got now that at a time where the market's so uncertain, I've got a new book that's coming out. I'd love to send you a copy. Isn't that much better, Mark? I mean, again, that's not knowing a lot about the other person other than where they went to school, but that's so much better than, hi, I'm a financial advisor. I'd like to send you a free book.
See, that is runs so contrary to the idea of metrics, going back to what you talked about earlier in terms of what we measure. I got to send out 100 emails a day. I got to send out 500 emails. I got to send out 1,000. So what do I do? Because I always contend, I send a bad email to one person, it's a bad email. Yeah. I send that same bad email to 1,000 people, it's suicide. But that's what salespeople, in fact, it's interesting because there's another comment I'm going to pop up on the screen here. It's many in our game hate to be called salespeople. It's a shame it's that way because I think they're buying into this whole concept. Just throw mud against the wall. And what you're saying is to be very special.
Yeah, I mean, sales is not trying to convince you to buy something that you wouldn't normally get on your own. That's not what sales is. No. Sales is helping you achieve your goals more efficiently, effectively, profitably than you might be able to do on your own. It's a mindset of caring.
It is a mindset. Hey, we're going to have to wrap up the show here in a couple minutes, but you mentioned this word Intel engine.
Yeah.
And I do want you to share with the audience, because this whole idea of this Intel engine, because you and I have known each other for years. It is powerful. I've seen you do some amazing things. You pulled my credit card information before I even knew it. So anyway, talk to us about the Intel engine.
Yeah, the Intel engine is, it's basically, think of it as a search engine overlay. So when I go out and speak, I build an Intel engine for every industry and or if it's a company program, customized for their company. And what it does is instead of saying, here's all of the internet, here's everything you can search for, I interview people in the company. What is it that you care about? Like if I could help you find these 3 answers to help you grow your business, your brand, your sales, your prospecting, what would those 3 answers be? And then imagine that when you log in, you're not getting access to the entire internet. You're only getting access to the resources, the tools, the answers that you care about. And instead of having to write a 30-word, it's called Boolean equation into Google, or a 10-word into LinkedIn, you type in a city, click the button, and it only pulls up the information you care about. Sales triggers, the job titles, and all the synonyms of a job title. It automatically does that. Like, most people are smart enough to search for 3M human resources, but then they'd miss the people in charge of culture, the people in charge of people, the people in charge of HR. The system uses AI to find all those synonyms of job titles. So it's a laser-focused search tool that gets people to the information that they care about.
Yeah, and I love this comment. Another person says, if we're truly looking for our customers or prospects' best interest, it's incumbent on us to care about. Yeah, it is. And that's what this Intel engine is all about. Other people are saying, hey, great conversation. So, okay, we've got to wrap up now. We've got an after the show, so people don't go away, and Sam, don't go away either. Okay. But if people want to check out the Intel engine, where do they go?
Yeah, I came up with a really rotten brand name for it. So it's Intel Engine, and it's spelled N-G-I-N. So it's Intel, I-N-T-E-L, Engine, N-G-I-N.com. And I've got, I think I've got about a dozen of my industry engines on there. I have a bunch of others. So if what you want isn't there, let me know.
We will make sure that we put show notes. Now, if people want to reach out to you, how do they find you besides Googling you?
You can Google me or Sam Richter, RICHTER.com.
And of course, if you go there, you can get directed over to the Intel engine also, right? So Sam Richter, R-I-C-H-T-E-R. Absolutely brilliant individual. Hey, Sam, we got to say goodbye here, but here's the deal. You got to stick around because the after the show is going to start in about 20 seconds. Well, it may take longer than that because I can't find the right video that's supposed to go with that. But hey, we'll find it right here. You've been listening to the Sales Hunter podcast with Mark Hunter. Each week, we bring a great guest. This week's guest, Sam Richter, without a doubt, the father of modern day sales intelligence. Now let's get back to Sam and hear more about what's happening. There we are. Hey, thank you. Great show.
Thank you.
So how is life in the great North, Minnesota?
It's good. It's nice to be getting over the hump of things. And, we kind of ended the craziness with a really tough winter. I mean, it was like depressing spring for us. And finally, we have some beautiful days up here now, and I'm sure you're experiencing this as well. I'm getting back on the plane to do a lot of speaking gigs. Everybody else and their mother's getting back on the plane to do speaking gigs. So my biggest concern right now is my plane going to get canceled? And so every flight I make, I book 3 tickets, 4 tickets, 5 tickets, pray that I get there on time.
I tell you what, I have had more flights where I've gotten, I moved to Dallas because better airport, don't have to make connecting flights and so forth. And yet there's been multiple times when I've still gotten home at 3, 4, 5 in the morning.
Yeah.
Just because of that type of chaos. And
well, luckily I haven't been late or missed anything. And again, because I booked, it's a little tip out there, book 3 or 4 tickets. If you've got an urgent meeting, book 3 or 4 tickets on different airlines. You can always cancel. I've been canceling tickets while I'm on the runway.
There you go. So anyway, hey, Sam, always great to catch up with you. You and I are going to be together here in another week. You watching this live? That's at the NSA, National Leaders Association Influence Annual Conference in Nashville, Gaylord Hotel. Still time to register, nspear.org. But anyway, always great to see you. Always great. And maybe depending on your flight schedule, you and I'll chat regarding another big project that we're working on.
Yeah, we'd love to.
With that. Hey, thank you, Sam. Appreciate it. Sam Richter, SAMRICHTER.com. Best way to reach him, or you can find him all over the internet. Thank you, Sam.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks for all you do for the sales profession. And it's an honor to be on your show.
Hey, take care.